Hey everybody, it's John Pollock here alongside Robin Black. Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. And it's a bit of a quiet day in mixed martial arts, so we're going to kind of chat about some larger topics because we have this breathing space right now between UFC events. Of course, Bellator is going to be going down this Friday night, but last week the Ultimate Fighter debuted the first time on Fox Sports 1, doing about 762,000 viewers on FS1. And this is a big season for them, Robin, with the incorporation of the women. And every season it seems like it's this big attempt to get people's interest renewed in this series, and the women are certainly breathing a lot of new life into this series, but you're also on a network that is just getting its feet under them, and it's going to be a lot of growing pains.
Yeah, so many variables in something like this. I mean, for one, do we still like reality TV? I mean, is it still something that people watch? I mean, you look at The Voice and American Idol and X Factor, their ratings are all plummeting, every single one of them. So what's not to say that every reality show won't be affected by this? I mean, this one's going on, what is this, the 18th season we're looking at? There's been a lot, the 50th, I don't know. And we add women, that's interesting, but, you know, we've taken Ronda Rousey and we've kind of rode her as a big star for a long time. Did I say ride her?
Yes,
we rode her as a big star for a long time.
Let us gloss over.
Yeah, we're just going to go with it. And we've kind of made that a really big deal. And stars don't, the brighter you make them, the quicker they burn out. So we don't know what's up with her. And you're right, FS1 is brand new. I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
When we talk specifically about Ronda Rousey, and the video is out there from the screening that members of the media got to see in Boston, and kind of Ronda Rousey, she was informed that day of the fact that she was going to be going through this, really didn't want to be there, and that was certainly evidenced. The fact that cameras were on did not shy her away from those feelings. And we've seen Ronda Rousey go from this woman that, you know, we saw her just, you know, freaking out over the fact Dana White called her after that Strikeforce win over Miesha Tate and just jumping at all these media opportunities. Now we're starting to see the wear of celebrity, and we've seen that on a lot of guys. I remember Fight Week for John Jones and Rashad Evans. By the end, those two were just sick of talking. It's a huge part of the game, but it is a part of the job. And we're seeing this with Ronda Rousey, who, I mean, she's 26 years old and she is in high demand in all these different places, being pulled in different directions. And you're seeing this now come out in the public.
The bigger the star is, the harder this is for them. Justin Bieber is a big star, and I read somewhere that 80% of all comments made about him on Twitter and Facebook and the internet are negative. So every day, all day, 80% of everything that comes at you is negative. The job of being a celebrity is to make a whole bunch of money, living in a lot of ways a really crappy, painful life. Sure, you're rich and you marry some other celebrity, but your days are often pretty miserable. And I mean, as a society, we are starting to hate the rich and hate the famous. It's just starting to take shape that way. And that's the thing you don't realize when all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to drive sports cars. I'm going to be famous. That is not necessarily as great as you think it is, except for being a millionaire.
That is, of all the years I've known you, the most depressing thing you have ever said, Robin.
Hey, man. Fortunately, we're never going to be big celebrities.
Getting back to the Ultimate Fighter here, the women were obviously the focus on the first show. Certainly a bit, at least an upset to many here with Tara LaRosa not getting into the house, but a lot of quality women here, which is one of the benefits here in that so many of the weight classes in the UFC are so deep on the male side that going from the reality show into these deep divisions, hard to make that leapfrog over. Whereas for the women, you're talking about a winner here who could be conceivably a fight or two away from fighting a champion, maybe even in the case of a Shayna Baszler, her coach, and that makes it interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a really, really good point that you don't really think about until you just said it. But we're looking at how neat it is that the women are on there, and how are they going to interact with the men, and it's new, but it's also very relevant. That's a great point. These women are going to be, like you said, a fight away from fighting for the title, and that is hearkening all the way back to Ultimate Fighter 1, 2, 3, where you could come in there and be relevant. That's a great point, man.
Lastly, this Saturday, obviously the biggest combat sports event of the entire calendar year with Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather Jr. And boxing, I mean, we always look at that model of it's really the headline that sells the majority of the pay-per-views. And they've kind of learned from MMA of trying to fill out their cards more. And over on mixed martial arts, specifically with the UFC right now, we're seeing a lot of it right now where it's not simply the brand that is selling these shows. And we look to UFC 165, not a ton of interest, just a week and a half out. But you know that 167, 168, the demand's going to be much higher. And we're kind of seeing that shift shift right now within MMA, and fans are picking and choosing.
Yeah, I agree. And you have this sort of base level when you have no stars, it's going to sell this many pay-per-views. You know, it is what it is. It's not going to make, set new records. There's not a bunch of excitement around it unless you're a hardcore fan, unless you're somebody who this is your thing. Your brother might be into video games, somebody else might be into something. This is your thing. But then a GSP fight, or Cain Velasquez for the heavyweight title, or John Jones perhaps, and maybe not in this case, then all of a sudden it becomes big. But yeah, you're really seeing that.
Yeah, well, Fight Week will be kicking off next week in Toronto. We're going to have tons of coverage leading into UFC 165 and where interest is next week. But right now, more of Fight News Now Extra.